Welcome to the Sustain Home Academy podcast, a special four-part series from the Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation. Here, we explore how sustainability, housing, and community come together to create stronger futures for families in Alachua County and beyond. Over these four episodes, we'll introduce to you Sustain Home Academy, what it is, why it matters, and who we serve. We'll dive into the foreclosure challenges facing our community, uncover the data that shows why this academy is needed, and end with a powerful conversation on estate planning and building generational wealth through home ownership. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement toward healthier homes, resilient neighborhoods, and lasting stability. So let's get started.
Hello, my name is Ramona Jackson. I'm the Business Development Manager at the Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation. And welcome again to one of our podcast series that we have. And we're going to be talking about estate planning. And I have the absolute positive pleasure of having Mr. Michael Merhar here, who has a law firm here in Gainesville. And I'm going to have him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Mike Merhar. I have my own firm here. It's Merhar Law here in Gainesville. We focus on estate planning and probate and helping people make sure that their legacies are protected for their next of kin and then kids.
Awesome. So thank you again for coming in and spending some time with us. Talk to us a little bit about estate planning. We hear about it. A lot of people are kind of confused about what is estate planning.
Sure, sure. So estate planning, kind of like globally, is just trying to get your own affairs in order, making sure that you're providing documentation that says who you want to get, what property of yours, if something yours to happen to you. Unfortunately, it's going to happen to all of us, but when it does, where do you want that property to go? Do you want it to go to your spouse, kids, some combination thereof, distant relative, you name it? You got to specify it, right? Because if you don't specify it, every state, including here in Florida,
Mhm.
they have their own laws that say what's going to happen if you don't specify what happens.
Right.
That may be what you want. It may not be what you want, but
Mhm.
unless you take some steps to address it,
Mhm.
that's what's going to be.
Right.
In addition to that, you have a lot of other things that pertain to just taking care of you during your life, right? So everyone always plans for maybe the death portion of it. They don't necessarily think of what do they do when they're maybe getting older and can't take care of themselves as much, or if something happens to them, what do they do with their kids? Who's going to take care of their kids? So estate planning kind of touches on all of that, yeah, in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. Now I know this may sound kind of funny, but when I talk to people about estate planning, they're like, "I don't have an estate. I don't need that." Can you break it down just to the bare that it encompasses everyone and not so much the word estate?
Sure, sure. Yeah. When people hear estate, sometimes they think, like hundreds of millions of dollars. They think like, Scrooge McDuck type, like, swimming with
Right.
goals type thing. That's not it, right? Almost everybody has something, right? If you have a bank account, if you've got a car, if you've got a house, right? That's something, right? That is your estate. Your estate is just what you own,
Mhm.
period, right?
Mhm.
Your probate estate is going to be what you own at the time that you pass that needs to go through court, but so generally speaking, your estate is just anything that you own, right?
Okay. Okay. Anything. All right. So C is about anything, not so much about estate, but it's about anything that you have that constitutes your estate. So when we're looking at it, unfortunately, we have a lot of people in our community that does not take advantage of that. They don't find the importance or until it gets to a point where they need it.
Sure.
So what advice would you give for those people that are like, I really don't need it, or they don't feel like it's important for them right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that all the time, right? In addition to, I don't have an estate, it's like, I don't need to plan.
Right.
And kind of it's the nature of estate planning is it's planning, right?
Right.
You may need it, you may not need it, right? It's kind of like having insurance. You hope you never need it,
Right.
but you may eventually, and it's
Mhm.
better to have it and not need it than vice versa. So
Mhm.
if you don't do anything, it usually gets much more complex, right? There is some law in place that will affect what it is that needs to get done.
Mhm.
It is most likely just much more difficult to navigate that process than to just take some time,
Mhm.
put maybe some money or put some effort into getting your plan in place. And then that way you're kind of taking the path of least resistance. God forbid something does something happens to you and you do need somebody to help you. Right.
Mhm.
Because, what we deal with is if you don't have, a power of attorney or a healthcare surrogate, you're looking like most likely at a guardianship.
Mhm.
Guardianship's a court process. It's expensive. The court's involved in your business forevermore after that, right?
Right. Mhm.
It's very easy to avoid that with a couple of easy documents, right? Which
Mhm.
cost much less. It's much less stress on the family. It's much less stress on everybody
Mhm.
to do that. And again, you hope you never need it, but
Right.
it's much, much easier to have that and not
Mm.
need it than the other way around.
So, am I hearing you correctly when you say, estate planning can help you, like, avoid probate? Because probate is kinda like a big word, are they
The
both hand in
boogie.
hand then, or yeah.
So potentially,
Okay.
right? It depends on what's in your state, what you own, and kind of how your family dynamic is set up, right? So there's some laws that affect how certain things can be given away after you pass. Mainly the house is kind of the one that is messy, right?
Mhm.
There's pretty strict laws about that. It's in our Florida Constitution about how that can pass or how that has to pass. But generally speaking, your property can go, however you need it to go, right?
Okay. Mhm.
You can have it you can so if we're talking about avoiding probate, you can do what's called, ladybird deed, right,
Okay.
for your house. That will help you with, most likely having your house pass outside of probate.
Okay.
You're only gonna most likely be able to do that if you're not married or your
Mhm.
spouse has already passed, something like that. You're gonna be giving it to your kids. That's the most common situation that we see a ladybird deed in, right? And what the ladybird deed is it's a special type of deed. Florida and a handful of other states let you do it, but it's very few states.
Okay.
They say, "Hey, you basically have full ownership during your life. You can do whatever you want with that house during your life, with that property during your life. You
Mhm.
can mortgage it, lease it, rent it, sell it, whatever you wanna do,
Mhm.
right? You can give it away. If and only if you happen to have it at the time that you pass, it can then pass to whoever it is that you name in that deed as the next person in line, right?
Oh, okay.
So that'll happen by operational law, which means it happens outside of the court,
Mhm.
right? Um, you know, the other thing that a lot of people can do that's pretty easy, everyone's got most likely a bank account, if you have a retirement account, a brokerage account, whatever, most of those, if not all of them, you can put a payable on death or a transfer on death
Okay.
beneficiary. That'll help, again, move those things outside of probate.
Okay.
Um, Probate is kinda like this boogeyman,
It is.
everyone hears probate and they're like, "Court, I don't wanna
Right.
do that, it's
Mhm.
scary." It is a court process,
Right.
right? It's not the end of the world. It gets a really bad rap because usually if somebody disagrees or somebody wants to fight or there is some aggrieved,
Mm.
sibling, kid, whoever, it's gonna come out during that, right? That they
Okay.
feel that they didn't get what they deserved
Right.
or somebody it's only really if somebody's getting something more than somebody else. That's
Okay.
when somebody else usually feels upset
Mhm.
about it.
Slighted. Okay.
But in that case, you probably want somebody, like
Mhm.
a quote unquote adult in the
Right.
room, the judge, right, to
Right.
tell you what's right and what's wrong and where things are going to go, where they should be going, right?
Right. Mhm.
But most of the time, probate is really not that scary, right?
Okay.
I understand people's, desire to avoid it because you don't want to
Right.
go to court. That's
Mhm.
fine. There's ways to do that, right? I want
Right.
to probably talk to an estate planning attorney to make sure that you're getting that set up.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it's not
It's not
quite as scary as everybody thinks it is. Yeah.
okay. All right. So I want to go back to where I probably should have started first. Tell us about you, your law firm, how you got started, and how is estate planning? How did you choose what you were
Sure.
doing?
Sure,
Mhm.
sure. So it's kind of a, winding path. I
Okay.
went to law school pretty much just knowing that I didn't want to do criminal law. That's,
Oh,
that's
you
all I did,
okay?
right?
You knew that.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's based on my background. I was like, I don't want to do criminal law. Other than
Okay.
that, I was like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of just took a smattering of,
Mhm.
a little bit of everything because I was like, yeah, all these it's all valuable knowledge.
Uh-huh.
Really kind of stuck with estate planning. I liked it. I liked the idea of being able to help, you can pretty much help anybody, right?
Right.
Everybody we talked about, everyone's got some sort of estate, right? Everyone has something that they want to pass on.
Mhm.
They're going to need care for themselves.
Mhm.
It touches on everybody.
Right.
At my core, I just want to help people. So I like
Right.
that idea of like practicing in an area of law that at any given time, it pretty much affects everybody.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what made me delve towards that.
Mhm.
Personally, no, my family, my in-laws both have some medical issues that had necessitated,
Mhm.
using these documents, and thankfully we had them in place so that it was much easier to help care for them as they age
Mhm.
versus the alternative would have been really bad. So I kind of like with my life experience, my personal life experience, and then kind of just the ability to be able to kind of help a broader swath of people
People. Mhm.
kind of made me gravitate towards estate planning. That's why I kind of struck out on my own and
Well,
started it up.
thank you for that because we need more,
Yeah.
especially trustworthy people within the community that's going to guide us the right way. Let's unpack that a little bit. I know when my mother was ill, she passed away almost 5 years ago. Um, the advanced directives and different things, we didn't have that in place. Our family was one where if you start talking about death and things like that, we're like, that's morbid. Let's not have that conversation. We're eating, let's talk about something else. And then unfortunately, when the time comes, we don't have it. So we have to really rely upon spur of the moment, trying to get things done. So what are the different components, of it, of the estate planning, and what does it consist of, and how does it help? I know the one thing now that my, philosophy is it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
100%.
And so unfortunately, during my mother's journey, we learned the hard way about things. So what are the various components?
Sure, sure. So, and everyone kind of knows your will, right? Or what we call your will. It's really your last will and testament because there's two documents that have will in the name. So your last will and testament, that's how most people specify where they want their property to go when they pass away.
Okay.
That's the only document that only kicks in after you're dead,
Okay.
right? You can change it up until the moment you die. So regardless of what it says, it's not in stone.
Oh, so if
Now,
I write something today and then somebody makes me mad and I'm like,
you can
okay, I'm writing you
can
back.
cut them right out. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
beauty of it, right?
Okay.
So you can cut them
Okay.
right out. No one's going to be able to do anything about it.
Okay.
It's your call and it's not solidified. They only really have an expectancy as to what they're going to get if they're named in your document,
Okay.
so long as you're alive.
Okay.
The other documents I call your living documents
Okay.
because they only affect you while you're alive, right?
Okay. Mhm.
So those are your durable power of attorney, your designation of healthcare surrogate, a living will, and declaration of pre-need guardian, right? Those are kind of what I call your core documents that I think everybody in some way, shape, or form can benefit from, right?
Mhm.
So a durable power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate are kind of two sides of the same coin, right? Your healthcare surrogate is really only going to be dealing with healthcare decisions for you and
Okay.
accessing your healthcare information.
Okay.
For a lot of people, that may be the main thing that they care about. They say, hey, if I'm no longer in a position where I can take care of myself,
Mhm.
I need somebody to go to the doctor with me, or I need somebody to help make medical appointments or help me get prescriptions and do all those things that, are for my well-being.
Okay.
The flip of that is the durable power of attorney, right?
Okay.
And the durable portion is important. That means it'll continue to exist even if you become incapacitated. But
Okay.
the power of attorney, you're giving somebody pretty much all the other authority, right? Aside from healthcare and decision making and healthcare information access. So
Okay.
that's going to be who's managing your bills, who's managing your property, right? Who's dealing with Social Security on your behalf, right?
Okay.
Or the IRS paying your taxes.
Mhm.
All that stuff that we don't really think about, but
Right.
that somebody needs the authority to do.
Mhm.
That's where the power of attorney kicks in, right?
Okay.
And it's super important that it's a durable power just because most people don't want it to kick in or aren't going to need it unless
Mhm.
they can't care for themselves. But if you don't have that durable language in there,
Mhm.
by law, it kicks out once you become incapacitated. So it's
Wow.
usually when people need it is when it would kick out. So, any estate planning attorney in Gainesville or locally, they're going to do a durable power of attorney
Okay.
unless there's some compelling reason not to.
Mhm.
Your living will, this is a confusing one because it's another will, but your
Right.
living will is how you specify what end of life care you do or do not want. So if you have some sort of degenerative disease, or some sort of illness where you're just no longer responding to treatment,
Mhm.
or you're in like a persistent vegetative state. So think like kind of a Terry Schiavo situation, right?
Mhm.
People have much different opinions about what they want or don't want based on that, whether it be, religious, ideas that kind of sway them, or just a personal thing where they're like, hey, don't ever do X, Y, or Z to me in this situation.
Okay.
So obviously the whole family may know what, the person wants.
Mhm.
That's how you put in writing what it is that you want, right? So
Oh,
then that way they'll be bound to it, right? Because
mhm.
you're going to say, I'm putting now in stone, this is what
What
I
they
want.
want.
So
Okay.
if this situation ever happens to me, I'm
Oh.
expressing my wishes
Mhm.
here, and you name the people that you want to advocate for those wishes, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's a really important one because usually, I mean, at least in my experience, if there's like multiple kids or something like that have to make the decision,
Never gets
2 out of
done.
3 or 4 out of 5 may all agree, and
Yep.
there's going to be one that's really upset.
Right.
This at least takes it out of that because now we're not doing, a vote. We're
Right.
saying, hey, mom wanted this or dad wanted this.
Mhm.
It's
It's
their
right.
decision. It's not mine,
Right.
right? So don't kill the messenger,
Right.
right? So
Mhm.
um, that's an important document sometimes, right? And,
Mhm.
some people there's a skittish. That's one that people sometimes don't want. And
Mhm.
then the last one's a declaration of pre-need guardian. This one
Okay.
is different, kind of based on your circumstances,
Okay.
right? So if you have young kids, so kids that are not adults,
Mhm.
you most likely want this to specify who's going to become the guardian, or who you want to be the guardian to take care of your kids if something were to happen to you.
Okay.
And with this, it says, hey, if I die or if I become incapacitated, right?
Mhm.
You can put in your will who you want to be the guardian of your kid, but that only kicks in when you're dead, right? Because your will only kicks in when you're dead. So the
Okay,
declarative
right.
paternity guardian will also kick in that second situation.
Okay.
God forbid you become incapacitated,
Mhm.
that'll cover you there.
Okay.
Um, the flip of that is if your kids are adults, but maybe you're older now and you're like, hey, I may need help. That's how you specify who you would want to be your guardian
Mhm.
if you need help. Now, ideally, if you have all those other documents in place, you shouldn't need a guardian.
Mhm.
But the distinction there between, having a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate versus needing a guardian is when you have a power of attorney or a healthcare surrogate,
Mhm.
it's more of like a power share, right? So if I give you, if I name you as my agent under the power of attorney and my healthcare surrogate, I'm saying you can do those things that I can do, but I can override you, right?
Wow.
With a
Oh.
guardianship, since the court's involved, that's the
Mhm.
court saying, hey, I can no longer make those decisions. Now only you can make those decisions, right?
Mhm.
Most of the time, thankfully, if you have the other two, it's not
Mhm.
needed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, what we've seen a lot recently
Mhm.
is, especially with the older community, there's a lot of predators out there that are trying to scam the elderly,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you get those random text messages from someone pretending to be some long lost
Yeah.
friend or whatever.
Mhm.
And I see it all. I literally saw it this morning with a client that I was talking to, right?
Okay.
It's very pervasive. So
Mhm.
even if you have all those other documents in place, sometimes you may need someone to, and there may come a point where you are becoming a danger to yourself, essentially, right?
Okay.
Because, people think, oh, you're harming yourself. It's usually financial harm, right? If you're giving all your money away to scammers and now all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're going broke,
Right.
that's when the court may still need to intervene and say, hey, you know what? These documents aren't enough. We need to have a guardianship set up to make sure that you're taken care of. So that's where the pre-need guardian would kick in for you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
kind of a long-winded answer, but obviously
No, it was
I give my spiel a
great.
lot, so
No.
I gotta.
It was great because people need to know, what they don't know, that's what they're afraid of, and I'm trying to understand what it all covers. So I'm gonna ask a question. So with the guardian, so if they put who's they want to take care of their children, that will supersede any family member that may come in and say, "That's my nephew, my bloodline. I wanna take care of him." But if that paper says, "No, Sue is gonna take care of him," that will supersede the family?
In most cases, right? So it'll at least give them preference, right?
Okay,
So
okay,
the law has kind of like a hierarchy of who is going to get preference if
okay,
there's no document in place. But the law says, hey, if there's a prenatal guardian in place, this person's going to get preference because this is who mom or dad or both
want it.
said
Mhm,
they want. And sometimes you get that situation where it's the really close family friend, the
mhm,
aunt, but that isn't like a biological aunt to the kids, rather than maybe the actual biological aunt or whoever who may want to
mhm,
take custody of the kids, but for whatever reason, the parents just said, hey, the kids are more, they know so and so more, they're more comfortable with them. So
okay.
that's a way to give preference to who you
Who
want
you
to have
want.
preference versus who the law may say, yeah, the law is going to give preference to somebody who's a blood relative.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good education piece right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you know, Sustain Home Academy is a new program that we launched. And so thank you for being a part of that. So we're offering, of course, outside of matching funds to help them with their foreclosure and, of course, foreclosure counseling and post purchase counseling. We're doing estate planning. So what would it look like for one of our clients to come in, and sit with you? What does that whole process look like? Because sometimes they'll think, "Oh, I'm going into a law office," and it's daunting to them.
Sure.
So what does it look like?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I try to be very casual. We're very low key in my office. So
Okay.
we try to be as stress free as possible because I
Okay.
know it's daunting, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Like you said, you're talking to a lawyer, lawyers are scary.
Right.
Nobody wants them. Nobody likes lawyers.
Right.
I think estate planning lawyers should be the exception. We're
Right.
friendly a
I like
bunch.
lawyers. It's just the long words
Yeah.
that they use, big words.
No, it is what I listen. Before I went to law school, I was like, yeah, I guess I don't really like lawyers that much.
Okay.
But afterwards, I was like, no, 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 it's okay. So
Mhm.
we try to be very, low stress. We understand that for a lot of people, this may be the first time they're talking to an attorney, or the first time they're talking to an attorney that is not not trying to take something from them. Maybe then maybe it's not in litigation, right?
Okay.
This is very much a friendly, conversational, situation, right?
Mhm.
So what we'll do is we'll schedule an initial consultation. That's kind of the and it's usually about an hour, right?
Okay.
So sit down, we get to kind of know each other a bit, but I get to kind of know the family structure,
Mhm.
what your goals are, is there kind of like a black sheep of the family that
Okay.
people, like you don't, something's wrong, like they can't be given responsibility, but you want to maybe include them in getting property.
Okay.
Kind of, I want to get a feel for what does your dynamic look like,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then from there, if something were to happen to you,
Mhm.
what do we want, right? Do
Okay.
you want the oldest child, then the middle child, then the youngest child to be, in charge in that order? Is, one child a nurse, so they're going to be great for healthcare decisions, but you have another child that's an accountant. Well, they're going to be
Gotcha.
your
Mhm.
power of attorney, right?
Right.
Or is it just, hey, we just have one clear person who is the responsible party, and they're the ones
Mhm.
that we need to kind of do
With
that, right?
everything too. Mhm.
And then we talk about how you want which property to go where. If
Okay.
there's a way that we can avoid probate, doing that, right? If we can just set up a bunch of beneficiary designations on all your accounts and do maybe a ladybird deed,
Mhm.
cool, right? We can do that. You may hopefully, not have to. Your family won't have to deal with probate, maybe, right?
Right. Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we go through all of that, and then after that, I'll
Mhm.
draft up all the documents, send them over, and I'll say, hey, just give these all a look over.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's some legalese in there, and
Okay.
hey,
Okay.
what does this mean, right?
Mhm.
My door's always open, my phone's always on. Just call and ask me a question, shoot me an email. I address all the questions, and then once we're like, okay, we're pretty sure this is what we want to have in place here.
Mhm.
We'll come back in, do a final review of everything, and then once we're sure that this is what we want, sign everything. All right,
Okay.
and at that point, they're in effect. So
Okay.
we're
Wow.
good. Yeah.
Right then and there.
As soon as you sign them and then they're witnessed and appropriately,
Mhm.
if need be notarized, then we're good to go. That's it. They're in effect.
Wow.
So
See, that's it.
it's it. It's
So
pretty simple. It's
thanks.
pretty simple.
Wow. So it's good to have it broken down like that because when you say estate planning and everyone doesn't know what the components are, they automatically think that it's going to be something that's going to be long and drawn out. But you sign it, you explain everything thoroughly, they sign it, and it's done.
That's it.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything else you want to add for about estate plan or anything that you want to add?
Oh, I mean, it's super important. It's important for everybody. Right? So even if you think, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't cost you anything to do a free consult, talk to an attorney and say, hey, here's my situation. What do you think? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It may not have to be something super complex, but I can almost assure you that something needs to be put in place, or something is going to be better than nothing. Right?
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's just, don't be intimidated by the process. Don't be intimidated by, the fancy words or anything like that. We
Right.
didn't make the words up, but this is just what's in the law, right? We're happy to explain them to you. So, but yeah, I definitely recommend just at least taking the time, especially if you're on the fence, you're not sure, take the time, do a quick consult with an attorney, kind of get a feel for what is appropriate for your situation, so that at least you can make a more educated decision as to what is best for you.
Exactly, exactly. So with that, how do they get in contact with you if they want to take advantage of that consultation?
Absolutely, absolutely. So usually people either shoot me an email or give me a call. My office number is 352-562-0626. I don't know if we can put that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Somewhere that I have a website as well, and people fill out web forms on there, and then I just will call and schedule a time with you.
okay.
And that's pretty much all you got to do is touch base, right? Once you touch base, either I, my paralegal, one of us will reach out to you, get it all set up, and then we're a friendly bunch, so we try to make it stress free. We'll make it as smooth as possible
Mhm.
to get you in, have a quick talk with you, and get a feel for everything, and see what we can do to help you.
Awesome,
Yeah, of
awesome. I appreciate that. I appreciate your time.
course.
Having something broken down again, as I said before, is paramount. The more information that they have to make a well-informed decision, the better for them. And I think you kind of like took the edge off of it with this conversation. So I thank you for that. So again, the clients will be meeting with him at Sustain Home Academy. So if you're at-risk homeowner and you need some help, please come by the Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation, and we will definitely help you get back on the right track. We purchase homes to be legacy, pass it on for generations, and we definitely want to make sure we do our part in helping you do that. Any last words you want to say?
No, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to sit here and talk with you today. I
Awesome.
think it's a great program y'all have, and I'm happy to be a partner with it. So.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of the Sustain Home Academy podcast, a proud pillar of the Neighborhood Housing and Development Corporation. If you found today's conversation valuable, please be sure to subscribe so you won't miss the rest of this four-part series. Together, we'll keep exploring the challenges and the opportunities that shape housing, sustainability, and generational wealth in our community. I'm Ramona Jackson. Until next time, let's keep building sustainable homes for a sustainable world.